Good morning, everybody. It is January 28th. It's our last Live Live of January 2026. This week, really excited to have Zach Snider back on the show. I think you're on episode 9 way back in the day. Now we're all the way up to 26. So we haven't been canceled yet. I guess
Well,
I don't really
that'll
have
happen today.
a network. Yeah, maybe this will shut it all down. Yeah. We'll see. But really excited to have Zach here. Episode 9, if you go back to it, we kind of dug into his origins and design build. He's one of the owners of Alloy Architecture and Construction there in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we were thinking maybe on episode 2 here, we're going to get a little bit more nuts and bolts, a little bit more into the weeds of how he is operating Alloy efficiently through metrics, KPIs, and specifically kind of gross profit per day. That sound like a fascinating conversation, Zach?
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm all about it. I hope I can do a good job articulating all these ideas that are so just kind of, in my head in a firm way, but they don't always translate to good articulation.
Well, maybe we'll do another one because Ian Schwant was on from TDS, and he kind of has a similar brain where you guys are, you just love connecting the dots and the wires between different aspects, and it's really kind of cool to see there's a real design element in it that then applies to how you operate. So depending on where this one goes, maybe we'll get like a roundtable discussion on an episode and get Ian back on here, and you guys can go back and forth and further elaborate and articulate on your genius. Before we get going on it, I do want to add to the audience here, this is a live show, assuming you're watching it or listening to it right now. So you guys can comment, and I can share the comments or questions to the little screen here, and then we can be a little bit more interactive. So if you do need further explanation or have some kind of questions into how Zach is doing this stuff, feel free to write a question or a comment in the box, and I think it should show up, and we'll see how that goes. But without further ado, Zach, what the heck is a KPI?
Key performance indicator, Dave. Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, there you go. So you guys have departmental KPIs, I assume.
Yep.
Which is a metric that is, what's the old saying? If you can't measure it, you can't fix it, or you can't improve it. Something like that.
What you measure gets fixed, or whatever. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So then every week you guys report on these metrics as a leadership team, I imagine. So how many do you guys have across the company?
We have quite a few. So each department. So we have our leadership team. We have, and those honestly are the KPIs we have for our leadership team are the most well developed, and the ones that I think are most impactful for us, definitely as a leadership team. And actually, one of my jobs this quarter that I've assigned myself is to kind of look at all of our dashboards for each team and kind of clean them up and see if they've got some redundancies or things that aren't really working. But anyway, so we have our leadership team, we have construction department, architecture department, our project development team, and then we have sales and marketing. And each department has a few KPIs that we're looking at. And so, like leadership team, for example, we have more than a few. And in that dashboard, we're looking at we kind of have a high level financials. We have what's architecture. We have the construction department, and then we have sales and marketing KPIs that we're looking at as a leadership team. And they're slightly different than the KPIs that the team's looking at, if that makes sense. Just trying to keep it high level at the leadership team meeting.
And then is gross profit per day part of the production department, or is that an overarching?
GP per day is part of the production department.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
but it's on the leadership team's like production KPIs.
Okay. And so just to kind of establish the foundation, so GP per day would be gross profit per day.
Yep.
Which, correct me if I'm mistaken, but that would essentially be the calculated gross profit on a project divided by the duration of said project.
Yep.
Is essentially right. That. So why is that so crucial to your operations these days?
It is that's a good question. It's kind of where everything is coming back to, as far as when we're selling a job, we're using GP per day to establish the margin that we're selling it at. And then once that is established, we are then using it as a measuring stick to see how we are performing on that specific job. So our GP per day, let's say our GP per day is $700 a day. If we sell the job at $700 a day, and the margin might be, depending on the size of the job, the GP per day, the gross profit margin for that job at 700 GP per day could be anywhere from 22% if it's a really big job, up to 40% if it's a smaller job.
So on a daily basis, or as a GP per day, are you looking at that as a percentage or a dollar amount then?
Dollar amount, yeah.
Yeah.
And we look at it per. Let's see, we look at it kind of an average. So so we've got 6 jobs running, and our average GP per day, let's say, is 900. But as a total, the sum of all the GP per day for those 9 jobs might be, whatever, $1,300 a day, or well, probably more like 3,000 or 4,000 a day. So it's just 2 different ways to look at it.
Well, and I think what's really interesting, and obviously, I think the time aspect is obviously the crucial thing of it. Because fundamentally, the faster we can do a job and achieve all of that gross profit, that's beneficial to us. But it also impacts the client. They want the project done faster and more efficiently. So it really, while we look at these dollar KPIs of all this stuff and say on schedule, behind schedule, ahead of schedule, really tying those 2 together is a really kind of powerful tool that benefits the overall project.
Yeah, it drives behavior. So it gets our team highly focused on pushing the schedule, because every day that schedule exceeds our established timeline changes the GP per day in a bad way. And so our team is like, all right, if we're going to maintain GP per day, what can we do? What decisions can we make to maintain that? Which then, to your point, trickles down to client satisfaction. Like, everybody's right. That's like one of the fears our clients have when they engage with any remodeler is like, oh my God, it's going to take, my neighbor said it took 3 years to do their whatever. And so when our behavior is being pushed to shorten the job, it trickles down to happier clients.
Yeah, and an example of that, I'm dealing with it right now on a small project that's very complex. I think I would call it complicated. It's complex and complicated. And we, from an efficiency standpoint in our heads, we don't want to bring a trade back twice. Right? We want to just have them there for their duration, like new construction mindset. The drywallers are there and they're going to do it all. But there's certain sequencing that will make it go faster, and having the drywaller there 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. And we're going to have to pay that drywaller more.
That mobilization,
the mobilization and the trips. Yeah. But if it shortens the duration, and you don't really need to get down and to the dollars and cents to micromanage it. But conceptually, you can kind of understand that by bringing the trade back multiple times in order to move the project forward, can reduce the project duration by 10 days.
Yep.
That gross profit per day.
Yep.
More than pays for it.
Exactly. Yeah. You might be paying more to that sub, but if you could gain it back on your GP per day, and come out ahead in the end.
And the client's happier.
Right.
So it makes it's a really powerful tool that has, it just has movement to it. It's like it's like a 4D tool, as opposed to as a builder, we so often look at just the gross profit. I'm going to the company's going to bring in $10,000 on this project. Well, if it's $10,000 over a 2-year project, what's the point?
Yeah.
So it brings all that into it, which I think to your original point and kind of talking about identifying
Yeah.
um, the projects that fit the ideal gross profit per day. Have you guys figured that out? Like, what is kind of the best type for you guys? Is there a avatar of said project?
Um, Probably. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. And we were just talking about this the other day. Like when I build our budget, um, let's see, our budget, we start when I start building the budget, um, I start from the bottom, right? I say, all right, how much money do we need to make? How much net profit do we need to make to feel like we've done a good job and to kind of, fund the lifestyle that Dan and I, want to provide and our financial goals for our families, et cetera. So that's kind of like, that's the net profit. We know how much overhead it takes. So overhead plus net profit is the amount of gross profit dollars we need to earn. Right. And it's like, you know, it's different than the conversation. You and I have had lots of conversations over the years about like your gross profit needs to be higher. Your gross profit needs to be
Mm-hmm.
higher. But it's like, well, but does it, like, as a percentage? Like it really, it's just like, how many dollars do you need to cover your overhead and give yourself a profit? And so then once you have that gross profit dollar number, um, you have to work up to what your total revenue number is. But I'm not doing a great job explaining this. Um, but so anyway, so once you have that gross profit dollar number, where were we going?
Yeah, yeah. That's how I conceptualize it
Yeah.
too. And right, and
Right.
I talked to some young companies that are trying to figure all this out. And like, what's our markup? What's our margin? Like, it all starts
Yeah.
with what you created this thing. What are your long term needs? It's not even how much money do I need to make this
Yeah.
year, but like where do I want to be? And then you kind of layer on
Yeah.
the operational needs through the
Yeah.
growth in terms of the overhead needs, and then what gross profit do you it's just basic math. There's three line items.
Right.
It's gross profit minus overhead, which
Right.
includes your pay, equals net profit for the company.
Sure. I remember where I was going with this though. You asked me about what the ideal project is. Right. So when I build our budget out according to that logic, I come up with our gross profit, um, just by the way that shakes out, lands at like 26 to 27% is what our gross profit needs to be, as a percentage to make it all work. And then when I run all of our models to come up with what our GP per day needs to be, that works out to a little under $850 per day, per project. And so the projects that like kind of fit into that math model perfectly are in the like 650 to $700,000 projects, because those are the projects that when we do that project, the schedule works out such that, um, our 850 GP per day equals about 27% and gives us a good healthy net profit. And so that's one way to look at like where our uh, our sweet spot project is. Um, when we go higher than that, and our projects that are more complicated, take longer, also more expensive, our GP per day starts to, or we're still holding that 850 a day, but our margin starts to shrink down to like 20, in the low 20s. Um, and we see more just kind of, whatever the schedule for those bigger jobs is a little bit harder for us to manage, so that GP per day is slightly more at risk. Um, so we end up usually selling those jobs, sending them out the door at a higher GP per day, expecting that we're going to see some loss there, slippage, but we're still in the low 20% on margin.
Do you see, so this might be a little bit of a tricky question. I'll see if I can articulate it. So the more I've kind of thought or dug into this entire concept,
Mm-hmm.
the most profitable per day fundamentally would be something that had a lot of cost in a very short duration.
Yep.
So if someone wants to put in a $100,000 toilet, the gross profit on said toilet install on the duration would be really significant. So do you see that driving you guys into higher quality materials with lower duration?
No, because I think what it gets away from is one of the things that I think one of the current concerns I think that comes up with the idea of like the flat, 40% margin applied to all cost of goods is that you're charging more for that expensive toilet, and we're profiting more from that expensive toilet just because it costs more than the normal toilet, right? And like, what's the you can justify by saying, well, there's more risk involved in that more expensive toilet, and et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, it takes the same amount of time to install that toilet that it does. I mean, arguable too, but let's just say that both the expensive toilet and the normal toilet cost the same amount of time to install. So you're stripping that factor away. And what does change things is when you've got like overlapping scopes of work that can happen simultaneously. And this became apparent to me when we were pricing a job that had it had a pool house, or let me say like an accessory dwelling unit, and then a pool, and then kind of a renovation to the existing house. So we had these two kind of structural, new construction ADU renovation in the house, and then this pool component that was a substantial portion of the budget, maybe a third of the budget. And what we looked at is if we sold that job based on cost of goods, marked up our typical markup to achieve the margin we needed, the margin was just like astronomical because we had this like compressed timeline because this huge, a third of the budget was happening simultaneously with the other projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you've got like, this job is like, let's just say it's like 1.5 million. And you've got $1 million in the ADU and the house renovation, and then another 500,000 in the pool, let's just say. And so you've got like, you have $1 million timeline, but a $1.5 million costs. And so you're establishing GP per day on that timeline, not on the costs. So what it allowed us to do was to sell the job for a margin comfortably that was much less than we would if we were just using a flat margin. But it made it competitive because had we applied a flat margin to all those costs, the price would have been over $2 million. And it would have been untenable for the client.
Yeah, that's really okay. So I think I think you were explaining that earlier, and that just helped me better understand. So your kind of foundational basis is not the overall margin on the project. When you're bidding it, or I'm sorry, not bidding it, as you're pricing it and putting together your contract dollars, you just need to achieve that GP per day.
How long is the project going to take? Yeah.
So you want to be consistent on that, because that's really all you need to deliver for your team. Understanding, of course, with that needs to come a better understanding of risk profiles on certain aspects of a project, certain complications, or the time required to do that from a labor and production standpoint, from your team standpoint.
Yeah.
So you have to be really real about having all of the costs of your team above the line on that. Is that fair to say? To make sure that is covered, or raise your GP per day target if they're below the line, right?
Right. I think, so I haven't put a whole lot of thought into that because we've just approached this whole thing with the assumption that we've got as much as we can above the line on our team's cost.
Right.
Right.
So
That's the way we do it. I don't know how that. Yeah.
okay, this is cool. This is an awesome conversation. And then we do have one comment. I think I can click on this and show it. It's just from Ainsley. She says, "I love your glasses both." Thank you, Ainsley.
Yeah.
That's some deep stuff right there.
We could go
So
down that road.
yeah, absolutely. You do always have awesome glasses. I do my best to keep up, but I'm a little bit behind on the Zach Snider style. We always joke because you meet Dan and Zach for the first time, and they're the architect and the builder, but everyone just assumes Zach is the architect because he just always looks so awesome like that. Not that Dan doesn't.
No,
Dan's just more the skateboarder look.
Yeah.
So, and on that note, I want to kind of switch that over to the design side.
Yeah.
Is there an application of this principle in terms of design productivity?
We are, that's something we're working on. And what we're looking at is how much construction revenue are we designing per day? Because we're design build, right? So this is a very different world. And I don't know that this stuff would be applicable to as I understand architecture firms, I don't think this is applicable because you're probably in most cases mostly concerned with just billable time. But in our world, if we're producing, the goal of our architecture team is to produce enough designable construction projects to achieve our overarching revenue goals for the year. So what we're looking at is, can we find a way to measure the amount of construction revenue that our design team is putting out throughputting in a measurable time. So the idea is construction revenue per day produced. So
okay, I have to wrap my head around that a little more.
Yeah.
Because you would want it, if it's too high, would that mean that those projects that you have either a backlog or projects aren't moving out to construction?
No, if projects aren't moving out to construction, that means that the construction revenue produced per day is going to be diluted, and that number will lower.
Okay. I think I have it all backwards then.
Yeah.
So how do you determine construction revenue produced once it goes to construction?
Yeah, it's essentially, like the team, we started a $600,000 design job. It's a design job to produce a $600,000 construction job, right? So that's the construction revenue, 600,000. Did that take us 6 months, or did that take us 12 months? Right.
I see.
Yeah. So I can't do that math in my head, but whatever. The 12-month version is half is half as much as the 6 month version.
And then your design pricing, do you guys do hourly on a retainer, or do you guys do a percentage? I can't remember.
It's a fixed price.
It's a fixed price. Okay.
Yeah.
Same way as we do it.
Yeah.
So are you guys learning anything from that metric? Like I've been saying this as long as you've known me, right? Like I really want to dive into the real, the real numbers in the design department to really understand, because the way it works is really simple math in our head. Mm-hmm. Have you guys learned anything interesting on different project types or different client types?
The interesting thing that we've come to is that what we've found, and this I was thinking about you and the conversations we've had in the past about this, because I know this is like this nuts and bolts thing about figuring out design department productivity. And one thing that occurred to us is all of our KPIs for the design department. I guess that we still have in place, and we haven't finalized this and started measuring it in a meaningful way yet. We're still kind of in the information gathering mode, but all of our design metrics, we're looking at like how much do we profit on the job, just a simple like gross profit for the design department. And so we'd sell a job at, let's say we sold a design job for $20,000, and that had an hour's budget of, I don't know, let's call it 200 hours, but we spent 300 hours. So by the numbers, we lost margin on that job, right, for the design department. So, but let's say, what did I say? It was a $20,000 design job, and that job started out. We're trying to build. The client has a $600,000 budget, and they want to do X, Y, and Z for their scope. So let's say that project started at $600,000. That was the stated budget, and let's say that our design department, while they might have spent 100 hours more than were budgeted, they did an excellent job solving problems for the client, presenting awesome selections, and getting them totally fired up to spend an extra $100,000 on the build. So that design project went from 600,000 to 700,000. We spent an extra 100 hours doing that at, whatever that rate is. Let's call it $100 an hour. So that costs another extra $10,000. Is that the right math?
Yes.
Let's just say it cost an extra $5,000. So we lost $5,000 of margin on that job, but we gained $100,000 of construction margin. So there's like this loss that we're looking at on the architecture side, saying, "Oh my God, we're losing margin. We're going over budget. Blah blah blah." I just lost your camera, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I noticed I froze for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, we're still talking.
Okay, cool. So you get, I don't know if you see where I'm going with this, but so we've got this $5,000 loss on the design side, which is significant relative to that design budget, but that loss has generated us $100,000 in extra revenue that we're probably selling at 27% margin. So the margin that drops down, it's another substantial chunk of margin for the company as a whole. So you have to stop thinking about it in these silos of architecture department success and construction department success, and look at it as like, how is the business doing that? The business's goal is to produce construction revenue. And how is that doing? And how do you measure that?
I 100% agree with that.
Cool.
Which is why it is so funky when we always try and dig into the data and the numbers that exist behind the design team, because it is more than just hours spent. There's so many intangibles in it. And I know I lost my camera, and then I actually realized the microphone that I was holding in front of my mouth wasn't actually activated, so I just changed microphones. So
yeah, your audio is a
hopefully
little
I sound
different.
better. Do I sound better or worse?
I had to turn your sound is a little quieter, but I just turned my volume up. You sound the same now.
I don't know. So much for my technology here, but we can hear you. You sound great. As we discussed, you're wearing AirPods that are connected to a Mac, which is the best way to do it. But I'm on a PC, and they don't really talk very well. No, I think that's really cool, and I think it's something that we're always trying to dig into, as well as it relates to the design department. What other KPIs have you guys established on the design side of stuff?
We look at billable time just kind of as a baseline to make sure we're spending the right amount. And that's something we're currently kind of digging into a little bit more to see, make sure we're not spending too much unbillable time. We also look at like when does what's our pipeline look like, and how far out can we start a new job. Another thing that we're trying to shrink and kind of um, improve on. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it always seems like to be the trickiest area to really define.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I think this has been really interesting. It's got my brain uh, continuing to think deeper about the GP per day and kind of
Mm-hmm.
the moving aspects of it. Um, Before we hopped on here, and luckily your camera still works, so we started talking Legos a little bit.
Oh,
I had mentioned that next week I have Adam Reed Tucker on the show, which will be really cool. He's, if anybody has ever built a Lego architecture set, he designed the first 15 of them, and so if you still have the box, his signature's on it. Chicago architect turned Lego designer, so we started digging into Legos a little bit. Zach, you're like, nah, my kids play with Legos. I like Legos, and then you realize that Legos are actually a really big part of the alloy culture.
yeah. Well, we have these little Lego alloy robots that we had somebody, a Lego designer, create. We also have a Lego org chart for our team.
So I don't think I've ever seen that. How did you guys pull that one together? And who was the wizard behind that idea?
I was it was like some cold, rainy day a couple of years ago, and my kids and I went to the Lego store. It's not it's called Bricks and Minifigs. It's kind of an they sell Legos. They have, but it's not a Lego store, right? It's like not a Lego branded store. Anyway, they have piles of Legos. You can go there and just like build Lego stuff all day. They sell a bunch of sets. They sell a bunch of sets that people have built for like astronomical amounts of money. And then they have buckets of Lego minifig body parts. And so my kids were just goofing around in there, and I was like, I wonder if I could like build a minifig of somebody I know. And then I just went down this rabbit hole, and next thing you know, I've got like everybody in our organization kind of built out in little minifigs. So that was the genesis. Just a rainy day at the Bricks and Minifig store. And now when we have a new hire, 90 days in, if things are successful and they're sticking around, I'll go over to Bricks and Minifigs and build a minifig for them and plop it into the org chart.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it seems like it could be a little bit dangerous too. Like if you made someone the evil minifig or
the angry minifig.
There's a lot of, or the angry one. There's a lot of options there, but
you
should keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Yeah, it's hard to find. You got to kind of it's hard to capture somebody's personality in the options that are available there. So it's pretty simple.
It is interesting though, if you really spend the time
mm-hmm.
and work through all the options, it can get a pretty good caricature of certainly people that wear flannel shirts and glasses.
Flannel shirts,
pretty easy to.
Yeah, if anybody wears scuba tanks regularly, that's an easy one.
Space helmets.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I love those cultural aspects. You said when you have a new hire, are you guys hiring right now? What's next in the alloy world?
Yeah, we're talking to a new architect now, and we're looking for new construction people. So yeah, we're building the team out.
Love it.
Yeah, we're hoping that adding a new team member in the architecture department is going to increase that architecture revenue per day metric, because it needs to we need to push that one.
Yeah, we hired 2 new folks on the design side almost a year ago, and we just hired a part-time interiors and a full-time interiors, and then Anna is now our director of interior design. So there with you, it's like really applying the resources to those departments. Otherwise, you just can't get the growth that we need and the throughput that honestly that our clients deserve and are looking for. So, I mean, design takes time. So we're
Yeah.
not necessarily trying to squeeze that duration too much, but we're definitely trying to be able to produce more with concurrently.
Yeah. And to that point, like design does take time. And did you ever see that book, Dave? How Big Things Get Done?
I don't think so. I'll
Yeah,
check it out.
check it out. It's a great book, and it really I listened to it while um, we were kind of in a mode of like looking at our throughput and like, boy, this has to go faster, and like hearing things. You hear stuff at people with other design builds, and it's like they'll kind of like it takes you how long to design a kitchen? Like I can do that in 3 days. Those kind of comments, and that stuff gets in your head. Like, boy, we really should be able to make this happen faster. Um, then I listened to this book, How Big Things Get Done, and it it totally turned that on in my head. And the idea, the main point in that is like the best way to complete projects, big complicated projects, and he talks about residential remodeling specifically. And in addition to like building high speed rail and the Sydney Opera House and all this different stuff. Um, the key to doing that is planning carefully and slowly and high detail in the planning phase, and then execute fast. And when I started thinking about that, I was like, boy, so that's another question. It's like, how do we create a metric that one pushes us the right way, but not too much, and lets us spend the adequate amount of time to be successful in our execution phase. So anyway, just a thought. Check out that book.
No, that I love that, and it's 100% right. In the creative aspects of it, it's hard to really ever account for or plan for just how long the creative aspects take of it
Right.
take to achieve that stuff. I'm hoping, or we're already seeing it. AI tools that can aid our communication, visual communication aspects with our clients. Things that can help support speeding up the decision making process on the
Right.
client side. I think are things that we're always looking towards, and that's everything from just having their selections available throughout the process to be able to
Yeah.
review and understand what's there, so that they have the full picture of their project throughout, as well as giving them visualization so that they can have confidence in what they're getting is aligned
Right.
with their needs and their dreams.
Yeah,
Then
that
the
helps.
creative aspects that's the time. That's
Yeah.
the coming up with the stuff that then needs to be produced so that the clients can get decisions made is really important. And I
Yeah.
think our clients don't want to rush. I know our clients don't want to rush through it because they're investing huge amounts of time and money.
Yeah, when they want it to
And
be right.
they're only going to do this once for the most part. So they want to
Yeah.
make sure that we put the time in to make sure it's right.
Yeah. It's not just the design part. It's the project development and estimating. Like that's where, getting the design right. Sure. That's a huge part of a successful project, and all the selections, and make sure everybody's good with that. But then like putting that all together into a buildable package that can then go into the field and be executed with minimal questions and conflicts is like, that money is, the time spent there is worth so much.
Oh yeah. And if you talk about GP per day, if you haven't spent the time on paper to
Yep.
figure it out and price it as
Yep.
accurately as you possibly can. I mean, that's one reason we do fixed price.
Right.
And we hear, I know California and some of our colleagues, do cost plus, but cost plus just has this feeling of we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
I know that's not really, our peers that do that don't really operate like that. But we're
Right.
going to figure it out as we go. We're going to figure this thing out before
Yep.
we displace your family. Because if we
Right.
figure it out once we tear something out, and then it delays, we can't move forward on the project for a month, 2 months, and have to pause it.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Nobody's happy.
It's not
No.
good for GP per day. It's not good for anybody. So, yeah, we definitely want to spend as much time as reasonably possible
Yeah.
on the paper side of things. It's a lot less expensive and time consuming to figure it out on paper than it is once a wall's busted open. That's for sure. Well, that's cool, man. I love digging into kind of the design sides of the operation with you as always. It's a tough nut to crack that just needs its own, I don't know, calming support.
That's right.
Cool. Well, I'll let you go. I know we went a little bit long here, but anything else on your mind you wanted to throw out there?
So much, but none of it pertinent to this.
Well, you guys stay safe. I know it's icy out there in Virginia, and hopefully you get spared this weekend.
Yeah.
Say hey to the Alloy team, and as usual, if anybody wants to find you, what's the best place to look you up?
alloyworkshop.com, and we've got all the socials too.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Super awesome stuff. Thanks again, Zach. And sorry for the technical difficulties, and I'm still working out my best mic, but what better way to figure it out than in real time?
Just doing it. Yep. plan slow, act fast, right, Dave?
Sorry. That's how LivLive works. So that's not how everything in my life in LivCo works, but it's kind of LivLive esque.
That's right.
All right,
good.
Zach. Say hey.
Great chatting with you.
Crew, man. You too.
Same.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.